Hey, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the Montgomery County House Delegation Land Use, Transportation, and Public Safety Committee. We have three bills to work on today. The first one we will start with is, let's see, why don't we start with MC 22-22. I sent you all over the weekend the ENT speed monitoring system standards. I hope you all got them. Does anyone have any questions before we go to a vote?
I do,
Yes.
Madam Chair.
Yes,
So according to those requirements, have we vetted the bill, based on those requirements, spoken with the sponsor of the bill to ensure or determine whether they meet the requirements? This bill meets those requirements?
Yes, Delegate. I have vetted those requirements. I have spoken to the sponsor. I've gone through the requirements with him. I suggested amendments that would make the bill comply with the standards. I recommended, narrowing it down, focusing on where there were crashes, all of the things that are listed in the standards. The chair of the subcommittee of ENT, where this bill would go, had multiple conversations with the sponsor, letting him know, that this doesn't comply with the ENT standards, and also recommending ways to amend the bill so it would comply. And in the end, the sponsor said no.
Okay, and can you explain those areas where it doesn't? Because it appears to be the items that you presented to us appear to be pretty broad. And I guess I'm just curious because obviously this particular bill affects my constituents, and this is a bill that they've requested us to do. So I just want to make sure I understand where the failure was with this bill not meeting those standards.
Sure. So the Environment and Transportation Committee sees a lot of camera bills. And as a result of that, they have the standards that you see right here. This bill is not targeted in the way that the standards require. This bill is putting up a broad number of speed cameras where the rules state unduly hazardous conditions exist at the location in question, and that the speed monitoring systems will be effective in addressing the hazardous conditions. So what we were presented with was that this bill was first in response to noise on the ICC. And then we were given some information about crashes and tickets. We don't know where those crashes were. And that's one of the things I actually recommended to the sponsor. Is there a way to narrow this? So there are one or two cameras in an area where it might be particularly dangerous. That's what ENT has really dealt with. They don't do broad cameras all over. They do targeted cameras in specific areas. In addition, it is very, very rare that we put them on highways. We did put one on I-83 because we were presented with a lot of information about an extremely dangerous curve where there had been a lot of crashes. Delegate Gilchrist, do you have anything to add as also a member of ENT?
No, I think you covered that well. We have already heard some hearings this year about traffic. I suppose traffic habits that have gotten worse since COVID, and we do take it very seriously in the committee, and we do hear about the issues.
We do, and we try to address them in a number of different ways, whether it's through penalties or enforcement and other things. So those are the reasons why this bill doesn't comply with these rules, and why both I and the subcommittee chair really tried to work with the bill's sponsor to narrow the bill so that it would comply with ENT rules. Are there any other questions?
Madam Chair,
Yes,
I'd like to move unfavorable on the bill.
I will second that motion. I believe we'll take a roll call on this one.
Madam Chair, if any discussion, I did want to make a comment.
You know what, there is, but actually we have an amendment on this bill that we need to move first.
Oh, okay.
My apologies, procedurally. Kelvin, can you explain the amendment to us?
Certainly. The amendment. The amendment adds the Maryland Manual on Uniform Traffic Control Devices as a resource to use regarding where to place the speed cameras.
And Kelvin, does the manual specify like how to place cameras or where to place cameras?
So I had the same question and I contacted the State Highway Administration, and the manual only deals with the placement of speed cameras in school zones. And there, in my research, I did not find any school zones along this stretch of the ICC.
Okay. My parliamentarian tells me we don't have to take the amendment up unless someone requests it. Okay, so there is a motion and a second on the bill. Discussion.
Yes, on the bill, Madam Chair, I just wanted to thank you for all of the background work that you've done in working with the sponsor and folks from ENT. I am interested in this bill. I think that I would have supported something narrower. And I did, suggest at the hearing that maybe the bill be narrowed a little bit, maybe 1 or 2 speed cameras. But I think that the sheer volume and us not being able to narrow it in a little bit is challenging for me. And for that reason, I will be supporting the unfavorable.
Thank you, Delegate Wilson or Wilkins. Delegate Moon. I'm having a hard time with the English language today. Oh boy. Delegate Moon.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I want to share my District 20 colleagues' sentiments on this and note that I had held out hope that we were headed towards a pilot compromise on this with maybe some look at some data to guide the future of this policy. But I do want to say, and you'll see this in another bill that comes up today, we do appear to continually bump up on the need to establish best practices for photo enforcement programs, both to facilitate them and to steer them. And I think we're coming into this problem in multiple bills now. And so I would just suggest that since the ENT folks on this subcommittee seem to have deep knowledge on this, that I would be willing to work with folks in the interim to try and see if we can figure out how to solve some of these problems. So thank you for your work on this.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay. Roll call.
On the unfavorable motion, Delegate Acevedo,
No.
No on the unfavorable, or Delegate Acevedo?
Do you want to ask your question a different way, Madam Chair? I don't understand what you're asking.
The motion is unfavorable. So a no is that you do not
Unfavorable
support-
on the bill?
Yes.
Okay, got it. So yes, I'm a yes, it's unfavorable.
Thank you.
Delegate Crutchfield,
I'm a no on that.
Delegate Gilchrist,
Yes,
Delegate Moon,
Yes.
Delegate Wilkins,
Yes.
and Chair Love.
Yes. Thank you, everyone. Moving to PGMC 10722. We've gotten a lot of information on this bill in addition to the hearing and the work group meetings. In response to Senator Kramer's requests, Maryland National Capital Park and Planning Commission provided a lot of information about the documents they use, their process, forms. We've got a letter from Senator Kramer as well. So I hope you all have had a chance to digest that information. Anybody have any questions before we move to a vote? Okay. Seeing none, is there a motion?
Madam Chair.
Yes, Delegate Gilchrist.
So we're on 10722 land use
Yes, sir.
documents.
Yes.
Yeah, I'd like to move unfavorable.
Okay. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Delegate Wilkins. Any discussion? Okay.
Madam Chair, I'll chime in just to explain a little bit some of my thinking here. I think this is another well-intentioned good bill, and I appreciate the senator for fighting for this issue and fighting for his constituent. I think for me, the bar was trying to figure out if this was something that had precedent that's already in practice. And if we are setting a new precedent, sort of us being able to rationalize that. And I do think that with the documents that Park and Planning provided, it does seem like this is new territory that we are getting into in terms of perjury and perhaps getting some unintended consequences for just regular homeowners who are trying to, make some improvements or go through the regular permitting. So for that reason, unfortunately, I will support the unfavorable.
Thank you, Delegate Wilkins. Delegate Moon?
Thank you, Madam Chair. It looks like District 20 is on a united roll today. I just want to second my colleague's commentary. I mean, we've had this bill multiple years, and I wouldn't deny that maybe there are scenarios where we run into challenges, but from the Judiciary Committee perspective, I've always had difficulty with criminal penalties and incarceration being the way to solve our problems and gain some of the behaviors that we'd like. And so it's not clear to me that would solve the issue here. Moreover, I do strongly disfavor common law penalties and things of that nature. And so once we start bumping up against perjury and things like this, I get a bit squeamish. So unfortunately, I will be joining the unfavorable today.
Thank you, Delegate Moon. Delegate Crutchfield?
Oops, thank you. I've had quite a number of concerns with this bill. And I think one of the things that really hits home for me is the fact that I've actually dealt with this issue in my homeowner's other life on the board of directors, and having to have developers not really go through with what they have said they would do. So that obviously is a big concern of mine and a bias towards this bill. But I agree, there are many instances where, criminalizing something doesn't necessarily deter, what's going to happen. But I do believe in this instance, because right now the Park and Planning does actually have documents that are required to be provided under perjury penalties. And this is not really new territory to them. And I don't believe that it would be so far reaching that it would hit homeowners in that way that they have indicated to us. So I will be voting favorably for this bill.
Thank you, Delegate Crutchfield. Anyone else? Okay, we'll move to a vote. Kelvin?
On the unfavorable motion, Delegate Acevero,
Yes.
Delegate Crutchfield,
No.
Delegate Gilchrist,
Yes.
Delegate Moon,
Yes.
Delegate Wilkins,
Yes.
Chair Love.
Yes. Okay, Thank you, everyone. And we move to our last bill. Delegate Moon has done a lot of work on this and has presented us with some amendments. Delegate Moon, do you want to talk about the amendments? I just sent them out, so I don't know if the committee has had a chance to look at them.
Sure. Thank you, Madam Chair. So you all should have in your email an amendment to this bill, and let me just explain some background here. I want to give a shout out to the county police, school system, and traffic folks, because everybody's come around to take a hard look at how we do some of the school bus photo enforcement, and they've come up with what I think are some improvements that will enhance safety at some of the high offense locations, and hopefully reduce our need to rely on $250 tickets to make these locations safer. So the amendment before you would basically strike the original provisions of the school bus text. The goal was to get the county and state to look at some of the offense data and start making decisions based on it. And part of the goal originally was to have them build medians because the state law deems those safer, but it's a bit complicated. And so instead, we're going to take this slow, and the amendment would have two components. One is an uncodified section that basically is the deal. And this is where the county is going to convene all of the stakeholders, look at the data, and especially the top 10 offense locations, and start to look at spot improvements for safety, including signage, if it's warranted, because the location is dangerous, potentially moving some of the bus stops, but also making some basic improvements, like making sure the citations and the information on them is in multiple languages. Right now, it's only in English. So I think there's a lot of front end public education on school bus safety that will be helpful. So that's the uncodified portion of the bill, and you have some of those provisions in front of you. The codified portion of the bill would simply be reporting on data, again, so that all of the safety and traffic engineers have the benefit of where we have problem school bus locations. And so it would be data on not just how many offenses there were per bus stop, but what side of the road the problem occurred on, and how much revenue is coming in from the program. As you saw with the earlier photo enforcement issue, trying to steer the money in specific places and things like that runs into a lot of questions. So unfortunately, I feel like the second part of this bill, where we tried to fix the ban on photo enforcement on low speed limit roads, is going to have to live to fight on another day. So the amendment before you basically deals with just the school bus camera reforms. Again, that's been worked out with all of our county partners on this, both on reporting and on the substantive reforms. But the photo enforcement reforms for low speed roads, I think, are not ready for prime time. And so I'm happy to answer any questions. I know we've got some folks from the county here, also happy to answer any questions. But otherwise, I would move the amendment with an additional strike of the photo and the speed camera part of the bill in principle, and we could have that part ready for Friday's delegation meeting.
Right, there's a motion on the floor. Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Delegate Moon, thank you. I know you and the other folks that are on the call right now and others have worked very, very hard on this. You've identified a really important issue and done a lot on it. So I thank you for that.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The bill's not perfect. It's actually not quite what I would have done. And we'll be at this for some years into the future, I think. But I think this is a good start. So I want to thank everyone for coming together on this.
Great. Delegate
Ma-
Crutchfield.
Oh, I'm sorry. Forgive me. Go ahead.
No problem. Thank you, Delegate Moon. I really think this is a good bill. I just got a really quick question about the uncodified area. I noticed that it talks about identifying the I guess 10 top stops, I'll put it like that have the most violations. What about those areas that you find that maybe are outside or close to that? Would we do something additional with maybe, because I can't imagine there's just going to be 10 stops, 10 places in the county.
Yeah, it's a good question. I think we wanted to set a minimum so that at least the top 10 would be addressed. I think there's a sunset on that uncodified part too. So I think in reality, there will probably be a bigger look, but this subcommittee and delegation will probably have to come back next year, look at what happened in the pilot. It's basically a pilot locations where this was tried out. And I agree. Hopefully we expand it. And if there's bandwidth to do more than the 10 stops, I do hope that they would look beyond that.
Right. And that is a follow-up question I also have, and that is the fact that the county is going to be required to report out, I guess, twice before 2024. And I guess, that obviously that'll be a follow-up to whatever that determination is made with the information they give us. But what do you think, or what do you want to do after that? Do you want to try to just figure out next steps?
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, part of the challenge is, and this is some of the tension here, is that a lot of the high volume locations are state roads, but the school bus locations and camera program are essentially run by the county. And so there's a strange mismatch where the revenues and all that are going to the county, but it's the state that has the responsibility of, at least on the road side, improving it. So I was not able to get everyone together on how to bridge that gap this year, but I am not losing sight on that. And I guess that's my hope, is that, in a year or two's time, we will have figured out the right way to steer the funding and things like that. And frankly, none of the other jurisdictions have figured this out either, so we're not alone.
Well, again, I really appreciate this, because my children used to wait on the side of the corner for a school bus, and there were always, issues going on. So I do appreciate you doing this.
Thank you, Delegate Crutchfield. Any other discussion on this bill?
Just one question, Madam Chair. I'm not sure if I missed this. In terms of I think there was a funding aspect to try to shift the funding back into safety improvements. Was there discussion on that? Is that included in the amendment, or is there maybe not agreement? And thank you again for all of your work, getting everyone on the same page.
Thank you for that straightforward question. That was my hope, was that we were going to be able to take some of these enforcement revenues and use them to actually make the roads safer where the problems exist. There's definitely a lot of conversation about redirecting that money. And so we're going to have to find a way forward on that with all of the stakeholders. But you are correct. There's definitely resistance on reprogramming that funding.
So that portion, Delegate Wilkins, in the voice amendment that Delegate Moon gave, is being stricken.
Okay, got it.
Anyone else? Okay, Kelvin? Did we get a second on the amendment, actually? We did. We got a second on the amendment. So on the amendment.
Delegate Acevedo,
Are we on the amendment or the bill?
On the amendment.
On the amendment. Okay. Yes.
Delegate Crutchfield,
Yes, favorable.
Delegate Gilchrist,
Yes.
Delegate Moon,
Yes.
Delegate Wilkins,
Yes.
Chair Love,
Yes. And since the amendment has now basically become the bill, are we okay with a voice vote on the bill as amended, which is what we just voted on? I'm seeing nods.
Yes.
Okay. Everybody
Okay.
on the bill is amended. Yes.
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 Excellent. Great work, committee. I know we dealt with some tough stuff and some lot to go through. I thank you all very much. Our desk is clear. So yay. Appreciate you
Thank
all
you.
very, very much.
Thank
And
you,
we're
Madam
Appreciate your
Chair.
leadership. Appreciate your leadership, Madam Chair. Thanks so much.
Yes. Thank you, Madam Chair. We navigated some tough bills, but appreciate all of your work bringing people together and figuring this out.
You all are wonderful. Have a great rest of day.
All right.
Bye.